What's up, Internet? My name's Seth, and we are going to be taking a look at some of the Trove Geode stuff. So the test server's offline, but today we're going to be taking a look at some of the stuff that was on the test server. Thankfully, I ended up getting footage before it ended up going offline. So there's going to be this Gunslinger Costume. I actually really like it. Bravo, A for effort, devs, because they finally ended up making a costume that has some shading to it. Very, very often, whenever the developers throw something into the game, I'm looking at you, adventurine items, it's going to end up having all one color, and it just looks absolutely gross. Even the watermelon that was recently added to the store for absolutely no reason. Prime example of an item that just has nothing to it. But this costume right here is good. I like it. They ended up actually making a nice gradient of color, especially if you look at the cape right here. And what I always look for in costumes is I look for what the back looks like, because that's what you're going to be spending the most of your time looking at on your character anyway. So if the back isn't interesting, then it's like the costume itself doesn't really feel interesting. I don't care for the gun styles. I know that it's supposed to be kind of a dragon meets fireworks. Maybe it's dragon fireworks, but either way, I don't really care for them. Their colors are kind of gross. The helmet's really nice in the details that it has, but in all honesty, it kind of feels like it's a higher quality than most of the helmets that you get in the game. And because of that, I don't know if it would end up going with that many costumes. There's a couple different costume variations that you can end up doing with this guy, though. Like if we end up going to the costumes tab, there's going to be, where is it? This one right here, which is related to the Ice Sage's costume. The Monkey King kind of works with it, just because it's Oriental theme, but this is the Lunar Lancer costume, and it's kind of disgusting. The Amok Aimbot, which is craftable at the Chaos crafting table, it's okay, it's not bad. The Macaroon one, which is from the Draco costume, that's not bad either. Same with the Jeweled one from the Dino Tamer costume. But I think that the Samurai one actually looks pretty good. Kind of makes the character feel a little bit more powerful. And then this one is just one of my favorite helmets in the entire game anyway, so I feel that it goes with a lot. But the gun styles, they don't really work for me. The costume's going to end up being 1,250 credits though, so that's going to end up being essentially pretty much the exact same as any of the other costumes, but it's roughly going to be a little bit under 10 bucks. That's a little bit steep, honestly speaking, just for a costume. But again, all the other costumes are going to end up being very expensive as well. And of course, it's going to end up being for credits, meaning that credit pouches have that much more value to them, right? So then there's going to end up being this mount right here. We've got two new mounts that are going to be added with this update. And this is one of them. This is going to end up being a flying bulldozer. It's a little bit weird that they ended up adding this because nobody was asking for it, dude. Like, seriously, it looks really cool, but its functionality is absolutely useless. Like, I can't believe the developers didn't even, it feels like they didn't even test this, dude. Like, in all seriousness, because it works fine if you just use it as a normal bulldozer, sure, which the bulldozer in Club Worlds can end up destroying blocks. And, well, you'll see right here as we end up flying into this mountain right here, a flying bulldozer. Oh, that's not really that useful at all now, is it? If they ended up making it so that while you were flying, it would end up destroying a 3x3 blocks in front of you, because what the bulldozer ends up doing is it does 3 blocks sideways and 1 block in front of you and 1 block up. So 2 blocks tall, 3 blocks left and right, right? And if you were flying and it was a 3x3, then you would actually be able to blast through all this stuff and keep on flying continuously, right? I think that would be a lot better, because otherwise it's just kind of a more glorified bulldozer. I guess you're just gonna go and get this one out of the cash shop over the other bulldozers just because it has that extra functionality to it, I guess. But it's going to end up being 3,000 credits, so that's a little bit more expensive. As far as Flux is concerned on PC anyways, that's going to be roughly 1 million Flux. Just to put it into perspective here, guys, you can either spend 20 bucks and get this one mount, or you can end up spending 3,000 credits and getting the Vanguard. Like, they really got to reevaluate their cash shop, don't they? Like, the value of these specific individual mounts and costumes and stuff is just astronomically ridiculous. And I'm not trying to say that they should end up increasing the price of the classes. No. Those classes are fine. 20 bucks for a class is perfect. But spending 20 bucks just for this? It's especially with its functionality not really having that much great detail to it. It's just like, ugh, no thank you. But then there's going to end up being, I gotta be careful when I'm typing here, the Bovine Buildmaster. Now this is gonna be something you're going to want. You absolutely want this guy. These guys also give mastery, of course. This is gonna be another 3,000 credits. At least credit pouches are going to end up being valuable, right? But this is probably the best bulldozer in the entire game. It doesn't actually have the functionality of a bulldozer, which, you know, is kind of cool for once. But instead, this is going to end up being what I've been labeling as the Bulldozer. It's actually called the Bovine Buildmaster. I like Bulldozer. It's kind of cooler. It makes a little bit more sense, right? And essentially, when you end up going into build mode, whatever you end up having selected in your hotbar, it's going to be the exact same as Ganda, but in a club world. So you can actually use this guy very effectively for big project builds. Like this is big. It took them way too long to add this to the game. Like seriously, we've wanted something like this since they introduced Ganda in the Trove of Wonders. We've told them about this, and only now they're finally adding it to the game. Like, come on. But at least it's here, so I can't complain. You know, it's going to end up being, there's no lag to it whatsoever. You can just end up going in a straight line. You're not going to rubber band all over the place like in most cases. I mean, maybe if the club world was busy, you would, but, you know, and it's going to be very, very useful for doing vertical builds as well, because all you got to do is get in the right spot, and then you just jump straight up. You don't got to keep on placing blocks like an idiot as you're jumping. It makes certain build projects very, very easy, like staircases, spiraling staircases and stuff like that. You know, you're going to have that much more options for the stuff that you're trying to build. And you can see right here, somebody ended up trying to do it. And I guess this is a prime example of them dealing with a little bit more rubber banding, where clearly they were just walking like this. But the blocks didn't end up placing 100% of the time in all of the places. But the whole point is that with this, in combination with just normal building, you can end up using your bulldozer to end up getting a project set, and then you can just end up kind of refining it yourself with like going in and doing all the nice little tweaks and everything like that, right? And then another thing too that I really, really, really wish, like if in any chance the developers are actually watching this video, or if somebody can end up actually messaging them, I kind of have contact with them, but not more than the average user. I just send them a tweet every now and then, and that's all there really is to it, right? But I really, really wish, like, considering the fact that clearly the game code can already tell whether you're in build mode or not, I think that the normal bulldozer, you know, the bulldozer mount, as well as the rocket drill or the rocket bulldozer, whatever, like all of those guys should have the same functionality, where if you're not in build mode, it shouldn't dig. Because that's another thing too, is one of the biggest complaints that people have with the bulldozer is there's no off button. You got to end up closing the biome in order to end up making it so that you can't build with these guys anymore, right? Whereas with this guy, you just come out of build mode and then there you go, you're all good. It doesn't matter. You can go ahead and leave the biome open and it's nice, safe, and sound, right? Because often you'll end up leaving the bulldozer on another character and then you end up swapping to that character and then you pull out your mount just because you're trying to move faster and then whoops, I just destroyed a whole bunch of stuff. Sorry about that. Now I gotta rebuild, you know? But if they ended up making it so that it would just function the exact same as this guy does, but then if you went into build mode, then it would destroy blocks, then we would actually have our off and on button. We would have what we wanted from the bulldozer since it was added to the game, because it's another thing where they've never touched it. And unfortunately, like this, you know, I don't mean to be overly critical about it, guys, but that flying bulldozer, at least that one kind of makes sense, where it's like, okay, I get it, it's flying mount, you know, and in a lot of cases, like, you might not necessarily need to use it to go into caves specifically. You can always use it just kind of like this, and you know, or just to get rid of like some side stuff, or even just slowly hover down and end up clearing blocks this way. It's going to be a little bit trickier, obviously, but it does have its functionality, right? The only point that I'm trying to get at with this is then if we end up going into the style section, for some reason we got the Landscaper 8000T, which is 100% just another bulldozer that gives mastery, and it's just going to end up looking different. Like this to me is cool, but it felt absolutely pointless when they ended up adding this to the game. I kind of feel that with this mount right here, just because, you know, how often do you actually want to be flying around and destroying stuff? Maybe for bigger build projects, I could see that being where it would end up being very useful. But for just normal, everyday, like, you know, deconstructing of, like, mountains and stuff like that, like, it's like, what we actually need isn't a flying bulldozer. We need another bulldozer that ends up destroying more block size. You know, like there should be a super bulldozer, or even if they could end up coding it where you would go into build mode and then your hotbar, maybe it would end up being different and you could select from 1 to 5 for the power of the bulldozer and how many block spaces it would end up destroying, right? Because that's one of the big things that's very lacking in Trove, despite the fact that so many people build in this game as it is. I feel that building in itself is very, very lacking. You know, we ended up more recently over the last year anyways, we ended up getting frameworks and fixtures and all that stuff, and those finally got incorporated into the game. Frameworks, I feel, is absolutely mandatory for this game. It's awesome that they finally ended up making a way that we could end up getting these pre-built items into the game, and then we could just augment them appropriately. But they haven't really put that much attention to it, you know, like they really got to add more frameworks of already existing content, you know, because otherwise the Geode update does end up coming out and it does have a bunch of extra frameworks. You may have saw them way over in the background right here, right? So it is cool that we actually have these extra frameworks to deal with when the Trove Geode ends up going out, but they're all Geode themed, and because of that, we're not going to be able to take advantage of them, you know, if we're going for a specific theme in our builds, right? So anyways, I don't need to get onto any of that noise because I'll have a different video showing off the frameworks and stuff like that, not to mention the VFX blocks, which are single-handedly going to destroy this game on console. But anyways, that's long enough time spent talking about 3 new items, for crying out loud. They're going to be coming with Trove Geode. Again, this is going to be coming out June 26th, folks, so get your wallet ready, or just grind the credit pouches, but there's a lot of other things you could end up buying, and U10 is right around the corner anyway. So thanks for watching, everybody. Very much appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. And if you want to support me, you can always sponsor my YouTube channel or check links in the description for my merch store, where you can buy this shirt and a bunch of other stuff, as well as a link to Gawkbox, which is a way you can donate to me for free. Sign on and stay epic, everybody.